circumstances, and how can we breach this 50%. So the first case which this case was breached was in the case of EWS reservation case. We all know that there is an additional 10% reservation now, and many argue that, like, see, I have seen argument that EWS reservation is a separate reservation from SC, ST, OBCs. Like, for example, the Indra Sawhney judgment was meant for only SC, ST, OBC. It is a ceiling on Article 16.4 and Article 15.4 of the Constitution, which was meant for backward classes. Surprisingly, they argue that the EWC reservation of 10% is not applicable for Article 15.6 and Article 16.6. This is a real surprising argument, because on the ground when you see EWS reservation, how does it work? I have seen in many examinations the EWS cutoff is much lower than OBC cutoff. So OBCs, in case if instead of this EWS reservation of 10%, this was given to OBCs, more number of OBCs would have got selected. So in that sense, is it not reverse discrimination against the OBCs? Does not it affect the equality principle? So in that sense, the argument that EWS reservation does not breach the 10% ceiling is completely wrong, and already many people have argued that the 50% ceiling has already been done. Now the next important case was the Maratha reservation case. The Maratha reservation case actually is a classical case where the Supreme Court went into all the reports, like it has gone right from the British Census reports to the Kaka-Kelkar Commission report, what has been stated, and the latest Gaikwad Commission report also. And it also brought in various research points which has not been told in the Commission report, and told that Marathas can never be backward, they are forward first. So only then the ceiling of 50% will be done. So clearly the courts told that there are certain quantifiable data which is required for breaching the exceptional circumstances, and that does not exist in Maratha case. Now in Jarnail Singh case, they laid down the conditions of quantifiable data and gave some conditions like adequate reservations, inadequate reservation should be there, backwardness should be there, and then administrative inefficiencies. So the same thing in Nagraj case. However, now a recent report, my friends, the Nagmohan Das committee in Karnataka has dealt with this aspect, because in Karnataka the reservations were raised from 50% to 56%, so approximately. So there they have come up with a new formula adapting all those things, which I am going to discuss that. But the more important thing which I want to emphasize this is that almost all the decisions or surveys till now are only sample surveys, unlike the Bihar case. In Bihar we have real data. Bihar we have data from 12 crore population, and it is really the X-ray of the socio-economic educational status. Now if using this data, if we cannot justify an exceptional circumstances, my question is what else is required? So that's very perplexed to me. Now considering this, now let me now come to the Justice Nagmohan Das committee report and how they discuss about the adequate representation. So they considered all the judicial precedents, and they came up with these 4 important parameters. One is the community-wise population representation in government. That is, a community should be represented adequately, not only at the lower level, even at the higher level. So there is a mischief which I am going to discuss in the coming videos, where can we tell that if more number of people are employed in Safai Karmacharis and very few people in Group A services, can we tell that they are represented adequately just by taking the total number of employees? No, we cannot tell that. See, for Safai Karmachari jobs or a clerk job or a low paying job, absolutely reservations are not required. Most of these jobs are got by the AC, ST, OBC, EBC categories without any reservation. Nobody tries for such jobs. The next important thing is that whether these communities are backward even today educationally, like for example, let us look at the 12th standard marks, 10th standard marks, are they scoring less than others? Or do they have good quality access to English education? How many of them are making into engineering? How many of them are making into medical? Then what is the pattern of employment? Are they getting organized government jobs? Are they getting organized private jobs? Are they employed in businesses? Or they are casual laborers? Or they are farmers? So this really indicates the backwardness. And one of the most important thing is the land ownership. Who owns the assets? So this is a very important thing, because this in India traditionally has been owned by only very few people, and most of the backward classes, like especially the EBCs, SC, STs, absolutely they don't have any land. They either work as landless laborers or they work as non-agricultural laborers as construction workers, etc. So they are literally dependent on others for their survival. The third important point the committee looked into was the economic development and human development aspect. Whether giving more reservation affects the economic development, whether it affects the human development. The next important factor is the administration and development efficiencies. Whether it affects the efficiency, giving more reservation, does it affect? So the committee actually looked into the following metrics. When it came to education, it looked into two parts. One is the primary and secondary education, and the one was higher education. Primary and secondary education, it looked at literacy rate, percentage in private allied schools. See, the percentage even today, my friends, of the SC, ST, OBCs in the top class private allied English schools is very, very less. In one analysis, I had shown that less than 4% of the private allied schools take SC, ST, OBC kids. This is the kind of representation we are talking. Now, another one which we have noticed is that more number of SC, ST, EBC kids go to vernacular schools, that is government schools or state schools. So, how many of them go to CBSE, ICSE, IB schools versus the state schools and the government schools? How many are going into vernacular schools? That's a question to be collected. Then percentage enrolled in 1st to 10th standard. The very important thing is that how do they perform in SSLC examination? That is the 10th standard. How do they perform in the 12th examination? I'll show you in the front. See, at the beginning, 1st to 5th, there is a huge enrollment from the SC, ST, OBC. But as they go to 9th, the dropout starts. And as they go to 10th, substantial dropout. And 12th, they drop out substantially, and there is very little left for the graduation pool. And when the graduation happens, there is absolutely nobody left for the post graduation and other higher tops. And that is what we are seeing. As we go to the higher education, the enrollment becomes lesser and lesser. So in order to analyze this representation in the higher education, the committee split it into the non-STEM degrees, STEM degrees, and then law degrees, CAs, PhD, etc. So they went in very detailedly. And regarding the employment, especially the government employment, they did not go by the total number of employment. They actually, that was one criteria, but they actually went into the strategic positions. They did not look into the group C, group D, where the low-end clerks and the Safai Karmacharis are there. They actually looked into group A, group B. And then one more important aspect was they also looked into representation of SC/ST in the secretariat higher civil services. They also looked at organized private sector representation, and then they also looked at managerial level representation in the private sector, because that is very important. See, if you are a low end worker getting less than 20,000, you can get it just like that. The reservation has no big role in it. The next important aspect is the economic and human development, the land holdings held by each community. As you all know, SC/STs were never allowed to hold any land anywhere in India, and the Land was concentrated in few communities, and this has created a huge issue of landless laborers in the rural India. This population is the worst affected, and unless and until we distribute certain land to these landless laborers, no substantial improvement can happen, because they cannot go to schools, they don't have good quality schools, they can't get the children educated. So they somehow get trapped into this ugly form of poverty trap, which we have not seen in the urban areas. So in the rural areas, this is very bad. Then unorganized employment. Most of this SC, ST, EBC group are in the unorganized sector. Like for example, if you see a driver in the rural areas, in the urban areas, or a construction worker who depend on wages, they are all in the unorganized employment. Then one more criteria is the temporary and permanent employment. Most of them don't have permanent stable income. So this is a problem. Because they don't have permanent stable income, no banks will lend them anything, and because of that, nobody can build any businesses out of it. So such is the economic and human development index which we have to cover. Then the income. What is the income earned? What is the relative share in agricultural and non-agricultural share? What is the per capita consumption expenditure? Multidimensional poverty index, housing conditions. So these were the criteria which were taken. The next is administration and efficiency. What is the effect of reduced cutoff on efficiencies? What is the effect of age relaxation on efficiencies? Does reservation shows that there is any effect on efficiencies? What is the performance of the reserved candidates who are in the government? Because anyway we are collecting the upper rankings. Accountability. Where do we have to fix? If the lesser number of people are there in the higher groups like Group A or Group B, should the reservation be held accountable, or what is the real reason? So these are all the questions which has to be discussed in the report. Then the last is the developmental efficiencies. How has the state performed well, and how reservations will help it? Like for example, if the state is doing well on human development indexes like TFR, infant mortality rate, marital mortality rate, expectancy of life, sex ratio, GER, higher education, GSDP, information technology, and financial discipline. So that means that the relaxation can be there. So this is how Justice Nagmohan Das committee substantiated increase in reservation for SC, ST through a very comprehensive report. The report is available on the web. Unfortunately, we don't see such a report in case of the Bihar caste census. My friend, what I'm telling you is, see, this is a very complex exercise. We need to take multiple quantifiable data from various sources and make it into a very detailed report to show that there is a real case for increase. But unfortunately, in the Bihar caste census case, there is only data, there is no report. So this gave enough ammunition to the courts to use data and then knock the case, use the same data and knock the case off. And in the next few videos, I'm going to show you how they did this very effectively, and that's very interesting. So keep watching. Thank you. So friends, now I have already discussed that the courts went into the quantifiable data to justify why exceptional circumstances does not exist in Bihar to breach the 50% ceiling. Now, amazingly, I have to tell you that the courts used the caste census data itself to disprove this. So, how did they do this? See, this is something really beautiful. And then see, this aspect many people had highlighted in social media, especially during the times when the caste census data was released in 2023. Then also I had written a piece on this, but very few people did not realize the importance of this. But today I am seeing that the same logic has been used by the courts to hold that the data justification does not exist for breaching the 50% ceiling mark, and then there is no exceptional circumstances in Bihar. How did they do this? See, the extracts of the data which I have put here is directly from the judgment. So this is a data extract from the judgment, from the Patna High Court judgment, which they used it to tell that actually there is no exceptional circumstances. So, but if you see the figures directly, can you find out anything here? See, the general category representation is 3.19%. Backward category is 1.75%. So, sure, the backward category is lesser represented than the general category by a big margin. The extremely backward class is 0.98. So, but there is a catch here. See, all these figures have been got in respect to that respective category. Like for example, 3.19% is got by dividing 641,281 divided by 201,09,207. So it is with respect to that general category. Similarly, 621,481 divided by 354,63936 gives you 1.75. So, but with respect to that category, only that portion, a very small portion, is working in the government sector. But you see the intelligence of the court. The court, what it told was, I don't want to consider the total number of persons here. I want to consider 20,49,370 as the total number of government sector jobs, and in this, what is the representation of general category, backward category, extremely backward category, because this is what is the real data point. Agreed. And then they computed the proportion. So what they got the proportion of backward category as 30.32%. You can see that 621,481 divided by 20,49,370 will give you 30.32%. Then they asked the question, see, backward categories have a population of just 27.13%. How is that they are getting 30.32% representation in government jobs, and in spite of this, you are telling that they are not adequately represented? The court is telling that they are actually adequately represented. Then the court went ahead and then did one more analysis here. So what it did was, it calculated the total reserved category, that is backward category, extremely backward class, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. It totaled it up and then divided it by 20,49,370 and told 68.52% of the government jobs are with the reserved categories. The general category has just 31.08% of the jobs. So how are we telling that the general category is overly represented than the reserved category? So this is a real googly, my friends. I have to tell you, to decipher this data, we have to think very deep. However, before going deeper into this, I have to tell you that what the courts did was, they just looked at selectively. Now I am going to show you the real picture. What is the thing? So I applied the same principles what the courts have told. Take the proportion of the government workers and then take the population percentage and then subtract it. So clearly general category and then backward category have adequate representation. They have, general category is much ahead, that they have 15.77% more representation. Backward category has 3.2% additional. But why did not the court discuss the EBCs, the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes? Now, undoubtedly, my friends, if you see the extremely backward class category, they have a representation of 13.8 negative. That is, they are underrepresented to that extent. Scheduled caste, in spite of the reservations, 5.45% underrepresented. So what does that mean? That means that these classes are in deep problem, and then they require adequate support, and then there is clearly an exceptional circumstances even by the court's argument for EBC, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So my question is, why the courts considered only the backward category and neglected the EBC, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes? So at least the court should have considered the EBC's case for raising reservation, scheduled caste case raising reservation, and then scheduled tribes case for raising reservation. Obviously the backward class, even if we assume that there are certain forward castes and there is adequate representation, that could have been handled in a different way. But my friends, the EBC, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, but even by the court's principle, they need support. Now let me now go to the next important data which will give you the real problem in what the data is doing. Now, as you saw, the actual metric which was used was total number of employees. But is it the correct data to be used? See, there is a lot of issue in that data, in the sense that, see, the government has 4 categories of data, 4 categories of employees: Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D. Group C and Group D, they are Safai Karmacharis, clerks, low paying jobs. Now, most of the SC, ST employees are there, or even the EBC employees are there in Group C and Group D. See, this is one snapshot from the Nagmohan Das committee report from the Karnataka, where they gave the representation of SC, ST in A, B, C, D grades. And you see the proportion, my friends. In 2018, SC employees as a proportion of their total employees just 3.74% in Group A, 8.80 in Group B, 76.55 in Group C, 10.91 in Group D. So where are we talking? See, it is much lesser compared to what we are actually thinking. STs, it's much lesser, 3.54% in Group A, Group B 8.03%. So this is the kind of representation which we are talking about. And look at Group C and Group D, they are overly represented. And this is the pattern which we see everywhere. SC, STs are overly represented in almost all organizations all over India in Group C and Group D. When it comes to Group A and Group B, they are negligent. So, not negligent, but they are not adequately represented. That is, for example, the 50% reservation is never met. For example, if you take railways, you have 30% for SC, ST, OBCs. 70% is general at the Group A level. Now, this is from the 2020-23 DOPT annual report. You can see here that again, the representation at Group C and Group for SC, ST, OBCs is much higher. And if you see the numbers, it is, since the representation is higher at Group C and the numbers are big because it's a hierarchy, what happens at Group C and Group D, the numbers are a little bit higher. Nowadays, they have merged both Group C and Group D at many places, and Group C is going away because of outsourcing. But even if you take this all together, the SC, ST, OBCs form a bulk of these groups. So because of this number going up, the total number goes up, and as a result, it appears as if there is adequate representation. But my friends, if you go into A and B groups, the representation still remains stuck. The representation is not there, and this just gives a wrong interpretation. Now, let us get into again the Nagmohan Das committee report, where it tells how the representation of SC, ST is there in the union secretariat. So you can see that secretaries, additional secretaries, joint secretaries, directors, clearly the representation is very, very low. For SC, it is 4.38, ST 3.28. For OBCs, you can see again here, OBCs also, it's very, very less. At additional secretary, it was 0, joint secretary 6.91, Director level it is 13.89. Now this data is from 2019, but now there is sufficient improvement, but the improvement is not that great. So we are not talking of a great improvement, but still it is there. So this kind of a data disparity we see even in the US. For example, if you see the senior executive level, it is more represented by the whites compared to the blacks. Okay, so similarly in India, the SC, ST, OBC, EBC categories are not represented adequately at the senior levels. So the same thing happens even in the US, and they recognize it, that only in the strategic position the adequate representation clause will be there. Even in the Nagmohan Das committee this argument is there, but unfortunately the Bihar caste census we have failed to show that there is this kind of a inadequate representation for SC, ST, EBCs at Group A and Group B, and the data is not available. I also don't know what is the condition, but I feel that the condition in the Group A and Group B will be similar to other places. The EBC, SC, ST will not be represented well. So now friends, we had shown how the courts used the caste census to show that the BCs, especially the backward classes, were adequately represented in government jobs. But does that really mean that these BCs should not be given reservation? Should we consider only the government jobs as the data point? Now, if you see the entire economy, there are different kinds of jobs. Organized private sector jobs, self-employment, that is how many are in businesses, then laborers, then farmers. So shouldn't we consider all of them? Now, one important thing is that what I noticed was the court considered only the organized government jobs. But does the organized sector contains only organized government jobs? Does it not contain the organized private sector jobs? Now, when we club both of them, my friends, we see a different pattern. And this chart shows you the same. It has taken both the private sector job, organized jobs, and then the organized government sector jobs. And it has totaled it, and then it has, with respect to the population, it gives you an idea, and you can see here that the backward classes are very, very less represented. That is, see, 2.8, that is almost like 3 times, 1.71. So although this is with respect to the category, this thing, with respect to the population, it is very low. So just considering and then cherry picking one data point to prove that BCs are adequately represented may not be correct. They may be represented in few BCs may be represented, but in few places they are not. Now, for this to prove, and then in the same way how the courts have done, what I have done is I have found out the gap for general, BC, EBC, SC, ST, each category of jobs. In the government jobs, my friend, I had already told that the general and then BC have some edge, EBCs have some adequate representation, 3.2, but EBCs, you look at EBCs have minus 13.48% negative, and then SCs have 5.45 negative, STs also have negative. Now let us take organized private jobs. Organized private jobs, even BC are underrepresented, minus 2.11%. So my question is, why did not the court consider this? The private sector jobs are much more in number than the government jobs. Are they? Why? So clearly, when you look at it in totality, they are underrepresented. Then EBCs, it is minus 14.36%. SCs, minus 11.49%. Unorganized private jobs also, the EBCs, SC, STs are underrepresented. and then BCs are on par with the population. See, self-employment job, that is the businesses, we expect the EBCs, because traditionally they were supposed to be Shudras and then they were owning businesses, small businesses, etc. And if you see, they have some advantage, but the advantage is not very huge. That is only 6.2% advantage. But look at SC/ST. SC/STs are lower even in employed jobs. This is, my friends, I have to tell you, this is a national trend. That is, SC/ST people, they are not there in any businesses. The reason for this is simple: they don't have access to capital, don't have any asset, they don't have intergenerational wealth, they don't have social capital, so networking. So because of this, what we find is that the SC/STs are not there in businesses. Even if they are there, even the EBCs, they are there in only small businesses, that is 1 or 2 employee size or max 5 employee size. Beyond that, if you go above 20 and then if you go above 100, something like that, most of these are dominated by the general category. The entire big corporations, stock market listed corporations, are all dominated by the upper caste. So similarly, now when you are not finding SC/STs here, then where are they? That is the question to be asked. Now if you see, most of these SC/STs will be found in laborers. There will be casual laborers. Okay, so you will not find them. There will be underrepresentation for the first 2 categories, that is the BC and then the general category. But the other 3 categories are more represented as casual laborers. They don't have land, so they have to work for someone. They work as construction workers. They work as daily wage workers. So that is the reality of this EBC, SC/ST, especially from the rural areas. The substantial portions of this EBC, SC/ST population are in a real trap. I have to tell you that. How to pull out? See, Baba Saheb Ambedkar told that these people have to be pulled out from the villages and all these rural areas, and then they have to be settled somewhere nearby to the urban areas and create a separate settlement to empower them. But till date, my friends, because it has not happened, because the reason is that these people don't have any land, they don't have any money, they can't send their kids to school because the schools are very bad. Even if they go there, the kids will drop out by 8th, 10th, and again they'll be put in the same kind of jobs. So this has been continuing for ages, and this is a trap, according to me. I can tell that as a caste trap. So it's a trap, and then this, we have to get rid of it. I don't know really how to get rid of this, but in the coming days we can think of this. Now again, when you compare the distribution of government jobs and private sector jobs, you can see that certain categories have dominated both this sector. You can see the Kayastas. See, they have altogether how much? 15% representation. Such a huge in organized private sector. Bhumiyars, Bant Hindu, Rajput, Brahmin, Kurmi, Syed. But if you see, as you go higher and higher, the Mushar, very less, Malha, Noni. So these are all like EBCs and SC/STs. Very, very bad condition. They don't have good representation in organized private sector jobs. See, organized private sector jobs are the stable income jobs. What these SC/ST, EBCs are employed are in low paying jobs, unstable jobs. They are temporary jobs. They are informal in nature. They are not formal in nature. It is not like us or somebody working in a software company. They are all well settled. So they are permanent in nature. There is a sufficient social security, insurances, everything is there. But most of these people, they don't have anything. So my question is, when the condition appears so bad, where can we tell that the SC/ST, EBCs don't have exceptional circumstances? This is my question. The data is clearly showing that these 3 categories need protection, and then they are in a trap. They are not able to get out of this trap. Now coming to, again, you see this, most of the top are the general category, next is BC category. But if you go down, My friends, see this, all these are EBC categories. A very bad representation. Very bad representation in the organized private sector and organized government sector jobs. So till when are we going to tell that we are going to escape from this reality that the EBC STs are SC and STs are not represented adequately? They are very bad. Even SC STs are the worst. Now coming to the next important data point is that what is the employee pattern of this category? See, most of this, what we have noticed in other states is that most of the SC category, ST categories are casual laborers, landless laborers, agricultural laborers. So the same pattern appears to be in Bihar, and it may be at a larger scale. It may be at a larger scale here. So if you see EBC, SC, ST representation in laborers, you can see it's 40.09% for EBC, 25.12% for SCs. ST anyway it's very low, but you can see their representation is very high. Okay, so but comparatively in government jobs it is low, but you see the private sector jobs. See, I have been a very strong advocate of organized private sector job reservations, especially in the salaried class, salaried organized private sector jobs. Why I keep telling you this, you see the glaring disparity. The general categories of 43.88% of them, of the entire organized private job is occupied by them. So you see this. In EBCs it is just 21.66, where the population is 36. Again in SCs it is 8.16. Unorganized private jobs, they have a increase, but still nobody wants these unorganized private jobs. They are not good paying, they don't pay well, they are all temporary in nature, they are mostly informal arrangements, contractual jobs, no security, etc. All these things. See, the most important thing for EBCs is the self-employment jobs. Now, don't think that the self-employment jobs are like big businesses. These are like just they employ one or two employees and then they run a small store or some side shops or something like that. These are all very small businesses. The bigger businesses are all with the general category. That is very clear from the data. Azim Premji University has conducted a recent research and it clearly proves that the enterprise size of greater than 20, the dominance is of the general category, not of the OBC category. OBCs are represented only in businesses of 1 to 5 employees, not more than that. So this clearly shows that a large section of EBC, SC, STs are in a trap. Okay, so they don't have intergenerational wealth. They work as casual laborers, they work as construction workers, and their dependence is for their struggle, their dependence is on for their livelihood, and the caste system makes their life miserable. They can't go on study, they can't get enrolled in good schools. The intergenerational wealth gaps doesn't give them enough income to go and get into a private schools. All these aspects show that the EBC, SC, STs have a special case. 100%. BCs may not to that extent, but EBC, SC, ST, yes. BCs, if you remove certain forward caste, it may become eligible. So, my friends, so I have already shown that the aspect of the employee data, a single employment example given by the Honorable High Court may not be correct, but they have to consider the entire gamut of data which is available in the caste census, and that clearly shows that EBC, SC, ST especially are very badly represented, and then there is exceptional circumstances for increasing their reservations. Thank you. Now, one more data point which the courts used was the educational sector. So, the courts used the snapshots of the caste census data, which I have shown here. This is the data like representation in primary, middle, secondary, higher secondary. So 17.45, so you can see this 21.69 for in primary sector, 24.65 extremely backward class. So primary, middle school, secondary school, higher secondary, diploma. So this is one data which the court considered, and it told that it does not see that kind of a disparity which exists across castes. So the one more snapshot, it contains graduation engineering, graduation medical, other graduation, post graduation, doctorate, CA, others. So the court's finding can be summarized as follows. The summary of the educational data shows 100% as distributed between the various stages of education, which only indicates the number of students carrying on studies in the various stages. We cannot find a large disparity among the various categories, and we cannot discern either a case of proportionate representation or an adequate representation from the above details. So this is very shocking, because prima facie, when you see the data, there are certain gaps, but it does not appear directly. So now I am going to show you what is the real data. Now, yes, I took the proportion now, and then if you take the population, like for example, this is the population, and the primary percentage represented. So here you can see that actually general is less represented at primary level. At backward class, there are a lot of enrollment. Extremely backward class 39.18, scheduled caste 21.08. All are higher than their population primary level. Then go to middle school. Middle school mein kya hoga? See, the general raises more, 14.07. So extremely backward class remains same, but scheduled caste drop out. Scheduled caste keep dropping out. That shows that the quality of education, and then most of them are going to government schools, so most of them drop out. Secondary school, you can see there is a big dip. For the first time, you will see a EBC coming down, then their population this thing, and general category is going up more than population. Backward class and general class go altogether almost the same till higher secondary, but you see in among the scheduled caste it keeps dropping, and extremely backward class also it drops till the 12th. So what this shows is that there is a greater probability of EBC, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes going into low quality schools, because of which they are not able to get high quality education. Most likely they are not getting into a good quality English school or a private elite school, and because of this skewed enrollment of this EBC, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes in government schools or low end private schools where state syllabus or no focus on CBSE, ICSE, most of them drop out by 9th, 10th, 12th. So this is one pattern which I can see, and then using this data, the courts told that, see, yes, it may be there, but there is no large disparity. Yes, I agree. I agree that there is no large disparity in the primary to higher secondary enrollments. But does this really have any impact? See, the main thing is that how many people are actually getting into the higher education, because only if you are educated you will get into organized private sector jobs or organized government sector jobs, which will lead to increase in income, and that is where the reservations are there. That is where the question of merit and reservation comes. So now let us look into the next level. So what does this show? Can you see this very carefully now? Suddenly you will see at the graduation you see a huge rise of 49.4%, and scheduled caste 4.72% share, very less. Extremely backward class 16.92, very less compared to their population. See, which was, when you saw general were only 11.4% at the level of primary, but now they became 49.4%. What does that mean? That means that this class is getting access to high quality schooling, elite schooling. This class, extremely backward class, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, bad. Very bad quality schooling, no English education, trapped in a mess. Now let us go to medical now. Medical, what is the same halat? You see 5.22% for scheduled caste, 20.1, again dominance of general category. But surprisingly, the backward class has a good representation. That's why I have kept it aside. The backward class argument is correct by the court. They are sufficiently represented equivalent to general category, but not with EBC, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. I want to make it very, very clear. EBC, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes have a huge disparity in graduation, in medical, in post graduation, doctorate. Only in other graduations like non-STEM degrees, like for example BA, BSc, they have some sizable numbers. Like for example, if you compare medical and then graduation, you see SEs, they are 9.8, they are better off 5.22. So most of these kids go into non-STEM degrees rather than the one option is that see they are coming from a very bad schooling background. The second thing is that the fees, the medical and all, the fees is very high, so most of them don't opt for it. And the next important thing is even at the post graduation level, doctorate, the representations are very less. So my question is, if the court had seen this separately apart from the backward class, only looking at backward class but also looking at EBC scheduled caste, the case of extraordinary circumstances is completely visible. There is a real difference. Now if you see this waterfall chart of general category, so how does this change? See, from primary, as I told, they were only 11.85% share, it increased, and then as they went up to engineering, it went up to 49.40%, and post graduation 46.69%. Other graduations they don't do much, so that is one beauty here. So the most of the general category students get into STEM degrees, that is engineering, medical. So these are the high end degrees which someone acquires. The low end degrees are not got by them. Now let us look into what the backward classes get. The backward classes representation is almost the same. See, whenever I am showing you in red, that means that they are in lesser proportion than the population. That is what it means. But whenever green, it is higher. So their proportion in secondary, higher secondary, graduation, medical, and is all very good. The backward class and then general class is all same. But now let us come to the extremely backward class. Extremely backward class, you can see their underrepresentation starts from secondary, higher secondary, and drops gradually at engineering, medical. So very, very big drop. So you can see that it drops by almost half, 16.92. Then other graduation also it is less only. So post graduation very bad. So as I told, scheduled caste is also the same problem, but their problem is much bigger. The representation is in single digit, 4.72 at engineering, medical 5.22, graduation, other non-STEM degrees it is good, not that great, but it's okay. So scheduled tribes also the same, so all red color. So now if you see the by caste, so the population percentage getting BE degrees is much higher in the general caste. So for example, here you can see this somebody like Kayastas, so Patna, so the Sayyad, so they are all getting good degrees. Others like SEs, EBCs, nothing. BE degrees are not there. Same with MBBS also, PG, PhD, Kayastas, Rajput, Bhumias, they all get good degrees, but others very bad. The EBCs, SCSTs are gone. So the key conclusion, my friends, EBC, SCST representation is negligible in engineering, medical, CA, postgraduate, PhDs. So although the BC representation is there, but it is still not as high as the general representation. But there is surely a serious issue for EBC, SCST because they are not represented in STEM degrees, that is engineering, medical degrees and technology degrees, and that will seriously affect their ability to get jobs. So most of these EBC SC/ST kids are trapped in this, okay, because they don't get good degrees, they don't get good jobs. So in this sense, what I feel is that especially for the EBC SC/ST case, there is a special circumstance to do something more. Probably they require more English education, more investments, more reservations. So clearly there is some developmental gaps, huge developmental gaps in this group. So there is an exceptional circumstances from whatever angle you see, especially the educational angle also is there in the EBC SC/ST. One of the key points which was raised in the court is also that the assets portion was not considered. So if the assets portions were considered, the BCs, especially the backward classes, would have been denied reservation. So this may be correct because I have also not seen the assets data here. But the cash census gives the income details. So as you all know, there is a linkage of income to assets and higher education. Like for example, if you see higher education leads to organized employment, it can be in government jobs or in private sector jobs or even in good big businesses they can start, and that leads to high income. Secondly, even if you don't have high income, if you have intergenerational wealth, like if you have good rental income, if you have good assets, you can sell that and then make money. So you can invest it in good businesses, you might have good investments, you might have good businesses, land, that also leads to high income. So both these things get reflected finally in high income. So that is one thing. But unfortunately, this analysis has not been taken care in the order. The Patna High Court order does not consider this. So I'm looking at this in a very comprehensive manner now. So the Bihar cash census gives the details of people category wise, how many people earn less than 6,000 rupees. I'm telling you 6,000. I don't know why they kept it at 6,000, because in today's India 6,000 you can't live. I don't know what will they get, and the state of living at 6,000 rupees I can't imagine. This I can tell that these people are like extremely poor. Okay, 3 times extremely. Then next is 6,000 to 10,000. These are extremely poor. Extremely poor. Then 10,000 to 20,000, they are like poor. 20,000 to 50,000, they can be middle class. Above 50,000, upper middle class. See, I am telling it from the point of what I have seen in Bangalore or Chennai. So this is the kind. But if you see the portion who are earning less than 6,000, you will be shocked. EBCs have 33.58% of the population, EBC population earning less than 6,000 rupees. SCs have 42.93%. STs have 42.70%. My God, what is this? This is like mind-boggling. The entire state is actually poor. Even among the general and then BCs it is there. But you look at SCs, it is much higher. EBCs. Now the second block, this is 6,000 to 10,000, also very high. 32.56, 29.44, 32.56 for EBCs, SCs 29.44. Now here there is a catch here. See, there is an EWS reservation and then the OBC creamy layer. What is the criteria? It is rupees 8 lakh per annum limit. That is rupees 66,000 per month. That is the condition given. Here, how many people are earning above 50,000? If you take this, EBCs, just 2.28% of them earn. SCs 1.72%. STs 2.53%. Now general category 9.86%. There also there are very few. It's not a very big proportion. So if you take general category 9.26%, see, I just found an extrapolation of forecasting for EWS category. So how many percentage of general category earn more than 66,000 per month? I found only 7.15% of the population. But that shows that 92.85% of the general category in Bihar are not in creamy layer, and hence they are eligible for EWS reservation. The same thing is with the OBCs also. The entire population will be eligible. The creamy layer and all these things doesn't work so well. So what does that mean? This means that subcategorization probably may be a better option, because see, we saw that even in general category some caste like Kayasthas had dominated. If you don't split the caste, if you don't subcategorize within general category or within the BCs, what will happen? Few castes will dominate. So that risk is still there. So the economically weaker section, this creamy layer, is not the real game changer. So probably instead of EWS, we should split it into various subcategories. Like you take out of 50% general category reservation, 20%, and then subcategorize it into those groups who require that. So that's a far better option. Now, one more important thing we did was, based on this family income data, laptop computer ownership data, and then vehicle ownership data, we created a poverty index. Poverty index, we normalized it, and then we took, like normalized means we take a ranking. So minimum value, so it is given here. So, and then we took all these three parameters, and then we created a poverty index as normalized lower class percentage minus normalized laptop computer ownership, normalized vehicle ownership. The assumption here is that if you are rich, the probability that you will own a laptop computer is much higher. You will have an internet connection. Then probability that you have a four-wheeler vehicle ownership is much higher. So a rich guy will have all these things. So if you have a normalized lower class, and if you subtract that, okay, the more the negative value it comes, the more richer you are. The less the negative value it comes, the more poorer you are. That is the entire thing. So we use this thing, and then we calculated this. So here you can see here a very amazing thing. So we split this into three groups: lower class less than 20,000 income, middle class 20,000 to 50,000, upper class greater than 50,000. So you see the poverty index. Mushahar are on the top, they are a scheduled caste. SC all, that is SC all means like all the caste under the criteria. So you can see they are also next. 87.79 are in less than 20,000. Malla, Chamar, most of them are in this thing. EBCs are nothing less than this. The next is all EBCs and then BCs. So you can see the relatively richer classes, you can see here down, these are all the negative values I was telling you. So Kayasthas more negative -2, Bhumiya, Rajput, Sayed, Brahmin, General, Baniya, Bhatt. So this shows that they are extremely rich, but here also there will be categorization. So what we have done is, we have split this into four categories: high poverty poor, lower poverty poor, moderately rich, extremely rich. So based on these criteria, we have split, and then we got this. So the high poverty poor mostly are from the SC, ST, OBCs, EBCs. For the extremely rich and then the moderately rich, it is mostly the BCs and the general category. So this is the heat map. So you can see in the general category, they are more negative. So you can see this here, negative. There are certain positive, so those are Sheikh and then Pathan. So they are relatively poor, this thing. So they have to be given separate categories in EWS according to me. Sheikh and then Pathan. So otherwise what will happen, the relatively richer classes in the general category will eat off that their share, and then they will never be represented well. Similarly in EBS, you see there is nobody with a extremely rich, all are poor. all are poor. But now you see in the BC category, you have certain rich, minus 0.2, minus Bhatt Hindu, Bania. So they are rich categories. They are termed as backward categories. So this shows that there is a need for some kind of a subcategorization. Probably we can split this BC into two categories. So that this Bhatt, Bania and then Malik, all this negative, and then Kurmi, especially they are very minus, very near to zero Kurmi. They can go into one category. The remaining can stay in this other categories. Similarly, in SCs, you can see some of them are very lower this thing. Like for example, if you see Dobi, they are very lower. Even Passes, they are very lower. So they can be split and then others can be put in one category and the others can go into another category. So these are all the possibilities. Now if you even see the backward class commission had told that the entire BC list should be split into three categories: extremely backward classes, that is the aboriginal tribe, Vimukta Jatis, wandering class, begging, pig rearing, snake charming, bird catching, game snaring. So these are all the activities who come under extremely backward class. The same categories will be there even in Bihar. The next is more backward classes, that is making brushes, painting, weaving, oil pressing, potter, sheep rearing, earthworking, jute weaving, butchering, tailoring. These are the traditional works of those groups. Barbers, petty, scheduled caste converted into Christianity, washerman. And the last group is landowning caste, backward classes C. This group includes the landowning, cultivating caste within the notified OBCs. These are So this shows that from the data, which is very clear, that the two categories, EBCs and the BCs, can be split into three categories. So that would solve the problem. So with that, friends, I have given you some really exciting ideas, and then I have shown you that the court's interpretation that EBC, SC, ST are sufficiently represented among the rich and they don't require any support may not be correct. So that requires a reconsideration, and then a detailed argument on all these things have to take up should happen in the higher forums, and I hope that happens. Friends, we have already discussed why there is a need for reconsideration of the Patna High Court judgment, and clearly I have shown that EBCs, SC, STs require special protection and then they are covered by the exceptional circumstances. And then regarding the BCs, there can be split of the BCs or some deletion of few caste from the BCs, and that would solve the problem because that will make the reservation optimal. But to tell that there is no case for exceptional circumstances for anyone, I don't agree with that. So now the next question is this breach happened anywhere else in the country? Is Bihar the only state? Now there is one state, Tamil Nadu, which has already breached this 50% ceiling. This law of 69% reservation was introduced in 1994, but this has not been knocked off even today. Why? Because it is protected from judicial review, because it is placed in the 9th schedule of the Constitution. So this gives sufficient sufficient proof that actually this 50% ceiling can be breached, and then it can actually be implemented on the ground, and it can exist also for a very long time. So it does not mean it does not mean that ever you can exceed 50%. You can actually exceed 50%, place it in 9th schedule and be safe, but that requires the parliament concurrence. So even Karnataka has 56% reservation. There are many states which have cross 50%, like for example Tamil Nadu is one state. Then the next is Chhattisgarh. You can see they have increased it to 82. Madhya Pradesh 73, Jharkhand 70, Maharashtra 68, Rajasthan 64. Anyway, most of these cases are in litigation, but the thing is that all the states have shown that there is exceptional circumstances. Now my main argument now is that See, forward states like Tamil Nadu, and then really backward states like Bihar. At one end, we see these forward states have higher reservation rates. Many think that reservation is bad for the economy, it doesn't increase the GDP. Unlike this, now the many economic theories now are just opposite to this. What they tell is that by giving reservation, you are getting more number of people educated, the education is become more widespread, and then you are getting all these people ready for running the economy, and once they go and start working, they start earning more, and once they earn more, they go and start buying things, they create the demand, and then that demand raises the GDP. So, as the inequality in wealth and income decreases, the GDP actually rises. That is one classical example is Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is the second most industrialized state in India, and with such a higher reservation rates. And if you compare on all angles between Bihar and Tamil Nadu, you can see on every angle GSGP, Social Progress Index, Multidimensional Poverty Index, GER. GER is one area which I had discussed very widely in one of my articles. You can see here Bihar GER gross enrollment ratio is just 12%, Tamil Nadu is 46%. So Tamil Nadu's objective of educational system is to produce graduates, not primary education. But Bihar is just producing primary education graduates, and in EBC, SC, ST, so there are absolutely no graduates. So that is the problem. The pool itself is very, very less in Bihar. So Tamil Nadu's model of increasing the GER in higher education should be a step which should be there. So here a lot of engineering colleges, a lot of medical colleges should be opened, and people should not move out, and at a very affordable rate. Even if you see dropout of girls, see Tamil Nadu is very less. Government medical seats, Tamil Nadu is so huge. Top 850 institution, Tamil Nadu has so many. Special economic zone, IMR. Crime against scheduled caste, Tamil Nadu is ahead. So it does not mean that casteism is not there. So one thing is that there is a link between reservation and higher development. If you give higher reservation, there may be probably higher development. So Bihar is one state which really requires this support, so that what happens is that by giving higher reservation, this higher gross enrollment ratio GER can be improved. See, currently the Bihar gross enrollment ratio is less than 15%, so that can be really increased. Now the more important part is that we can free a large population of SC, ST, OBCs who are in casual labor, landless agricultural labor. Okay, so what will happen, like you can distribute land, everything, so that will be done very effectively. One more important thing I wanted to tell you, but this is a little bit controversial. See, the Article 335 of the Constitution talks about merit and efficiency, but that is only with respect to administrative jobs. That is only with respect to appointments, not in educational institution. Nowhere it is mentioned that merit can be compromised for efficiency in education. So, in educational system, especially in the higher educational system, the SC, ST, EBC, OBCs, the proportionate representation should be the norm. Okay, in education, maybe in the private sector jobs and then the public sector job, it may be different, but not in the educational space. So the last takeaway here is that, like, see, caste census should be done very comprehensively, and the report should be comprehensively done, and then the social backwardness parameters should be covered. See, I have already discussed many parameters in the Nagmohan Das committee report earlier on. So those kind of parameters should be covered: educational backwardness, economic backwardness, adequate representation in public service, wealth distribution in terms of asset zone, adequate representation in formal organized corporate employment, access to capital and banking loans, access to organized community support to support independent entrepreneurs, relative position of the caste in test caste census undertaken by British government. This is never taken because see, one of the important source of data for social backwardness is the British government's data. So the 10 caste census have already documented which are the forward castes among the BCs, which are the general categories. So all those things are already available. So that historical evidences also should be taken. So relative position of the caste as per Hindu scriptures and historical evidence. This is never considered. So this should also be part of the caste census report, so that an entire detailed report is made. So with that, I want to make my concluding remarks here. The first thing is that the caste census, Bihar caste census data clearly shows that the EBC, SC, ST are extremely backward in all parameters. There is no doubt about it. And there is a need for comprehensive reservation programs and budgets to uplift this population. There is no doubt about this, because a piecemeal reservation of increasing it does not work. See, you may have to have an empowerment package for the casual laborers. You might want to have distribution of land to be done for landless laborers, more security to be given to the construction workers, educational facilities to be given to casual laborers, improvement in primary education, so access to English education. All these things are things which needs to be a part of the comprehensive program. And caste census is not just for raising reservation, it is a social engineering tool. We need to re-engineer Bihar so that a huge population of EBC, SC, ST come up. So, and it's good for the economy. If they grow up, they go spend, and then the economy will grow. Now, the second important aspect of the entire controversy here is the BC category. Now, as we notice that in the BCs, there are moderately rich castes. Few of them are there. They are castes who own land. So, probably what I am telling you is we need to bifurcate this into two categories and limit the reservation. So, I don't think that raising reservation by 6% for BC is really required, according to me, because they already are doing well. So it should not be a political thing, but BCs can be split into two, and then if the other portion of BC can be allowed to make maximum use of the reservation available. The next important point is that, see, we have already seen that some of the SC, STs are also forward, like Parsis and few others. So subcategorization may be the need of the hours here. So why is not the government considering that? So that is probably the need of the hour here. Now, even among EWS, even among the general categories, some castes have dominated the sector, like castas. So there also the subcategorization may be needed. So overall, I feel that there is a requirement for empowerment packages, a very comprehensive program. That is what is the need of the hour to lift SC, ST, EBC, BC communities. It is not just a plain 65%